Thank you guys. Yes, as Heather mentioned, the importance of mental health, right? We've all literally just been talking about what it looks like, especially with mothers, right? We oftentimes don't um, have the opportunity, right? We won't, society will tell us that mothers are everything but taking care of themselves, right? Especially with generational, especially with Black and Brown women, on how that looks like, right? I know I am taking a huge role in my own healing to be able to combat that. So when, as listening to the previous panel about being moms and all that I was hearing is like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path. I'm healing myself. So when I do have these kids, when I do have this relationship, we're working together, right? But what I really wanted to talk about was about therapy. So I am a licensed social worker. I have a podcast called Healing All Year where we talk about different topics on healing and taking ownership of it, where you can take healing and take ownership of it at any time of the year and being mindful of it, right? So in regards to therapy is sometimes stigmatized, right? It's oftentimes like, oh, you have to be crazy to go to therapy, or something has to be wrong with you. I know when I first started going to therapy within my family, very old school, traditional Puerto Rican family, they were like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Like, I'm good. So I have worked on these last couple of years on normalizing going to therapy. So my parents will ask me when I go to therapy, like, oh, how was your session? I'm like, oh, my session was really good today. You want to talk about all the times I cried all session? Let's talk about it. So normalizing that has been a good and hard journey for me within family. But oftentimes we don't look at therapy as something that we can have access to. It'd be like time, or it can be either just having the space, or you feel like I'm good. I don't need to. I'm perfectly fine, and we all are, right? We are fine and within our own realm of it. Yes, normalizing therapy is important, but within the pandemic, I know for me, I have had a hard time with my mental health. Being at home, I coined being fake busy. Before March of last year, I was fake busy. I always had something to do. It was brunch, it was hanging out with friends, it was doing every single thing to avoid my feelings. Everything I could think of, I was doing it. You wanted to hang out? Yes. You wanted to go to the mall, to the park? Yep, I'm there. Everything, as what Nicole was mentioning, just to forget about what I'm feeling. And pandemic hit, and that's it. Who am I but me and my feelings? And just being able to go to therapy and just piece them together. I've had different levels of therapy. I had therapy for like a breakup I was in. I had therapy for school and being a social worker and those stressors, should I say. And now it's more of family. What is the family that I have in front of me? What is it that I can contribute to my life with that? And what does my life look like separate from my family? I just moved out. I don't have any kids. I'm not married. I'm single, not looking. So that conversation is also a part of it. But just being mindful of it. This is a hard time for us. This isn't our normal. I don't know if we'll ever get back to our normal, but chiming into therapy, right? So some of the things, just some tips real quick as to some signs that maybe it might be time to start, right? Yes, not looking. I'm healing over here. Some signs just to think about, like what might be, when it might be time to start therapy, right? You're avoiding your pain, right? My fake busy, I was avoiding my pain, key sign, right? I'm feeling overwhelmed. COVID, pandemic, stress, anxiety, check, right? I am feeling overwhelmed. Something traumatic happened. This pandemic is categorized as traumatic. It's traumatic. It's different. It's not what we are used to. It's not where our children are used to. It's traumatic. It counts. Grieving. I know I'm still learning how to work through this, but I was grieving my routine, my fake busy. You know, I've also lost people within the pandemic and before, and I was still grieving, and it came up more during this quiet time of mine. Any change of sleep or eating, any appetite, if you're noticing that you don't have appetite, you're noticing that you have a little bit more appetite, that is something to look into. Having difficulty regulating your emotions. I recently was crying and didn't understand why. It just was coming out and I just didn't understand. So that was, my key point to checking in. Having anxious thoughts. Sometimes for me personally, I'll think of something pertaining to family or pertaining to other things, and it'll be a catastrophe in 2 seconds. So dealing with my anxious thoughts are also important. And then just monitoring what your life was before these things happened and how it has decreased your quality of life. Whatever that quality is, it's important to have a pinpoint on it and say, this is different, I want to change this. And also just a really key point, therapy isn't failing. When you go to therapy, it is not saying that you're failing at life. It is actually healing all year. You're actually taking ownership of it. You're actually taking accountability of you, yourself, and your future. So that's my piece on it. I will put my handles on it, follow. I'm doing a series right now on social media on therapy and what that looks like for us. So that way we can normalize therapy. We can normalize these conversations because it's an act of love, self-care, and we are the most important people to ourselves versus anybody else.